Please pray with me. Gracious and loving God, help us this day to understand and celebrate your dream for the world, to be transformed in Jesus' love, and to use our gifts to make a difference for others. Amen. Image matters. Think of the money, the time spent on our image. The image we present to family, friends, just going to the store, signing on to Zoom. We wear certain things, do certain things to project out there an image. Because our image represents who we are. Here's the definition. Image, a representation of the external form of a person or a thing in art. We protect our image because we want control over what others think of us. Image, to control the message. Image, to feel we're really seen for who we are. But does our image really represent us? Having an image, the right image, so we're accepted, protected, in control, esteemed, feel safe, survive. And somewhere along the way, we start believing that our image is us. Not just a representation, but the real deal. I am success. I am intelligent. I am an artist, an athlete. I am put together, calm, helpful, needed, normal, like everybody else. Not like everybody else. I am my image. Image matters. An image mattered to the people in our Exodus reading today. The people of Israel were feeling powerless and needed an image of God. They had been enslaved for generations and had made the bold decision to trust Moses, who hadn't even been enslaved with them, and leave all they knew and endure the desert after only knowing urban life. Trusting in one God, not the many that everybody else believed in. And this God didn't even have a name or a form or an image. They had left their whole known for the unknown because of a promise, a hope. And what held them was Moses, his actions, words, miracles, leadership. He projected this image of the promise of new life in this one nameless, formless God. And now, he'd been gone for a month and 10 days. Empty of an image, the people, desperate, approach Moses' brother Aaron and his sister Miriam, the co-leaders with Moses. They really needed to see this God they had chosen to follow. They had to have something. They needed to know this God was still with them, was real. How do you know God is real? This from a people who had been freed from slavery. This from a people who had walked through the parted Red Sea. This from a people who saw a pillar of cloud in the day and a pillar of flame at night to protect them from the Egyptian soldiers. They had been saved again and again and again by this God. They had been fed by this God, but they still didn't trust this God. that this God could be real. No Moses, no image, no God. Aaron felt the desperation. He just didn't want any trouble. The verb translated in our reading today as gathered, the people gathered around him, can also be translated to a symbol for conflict or a rebellion, and is actually better translated as gathered against. So he appeases the people who had gathered against him and makes them an image. He tries to make it meaningful, using the gold jewelry gotten from being enslaved in Egypt and melting it down into an image, and kept referring to this image as the God who led them from the land of Egypt. And he makes the golden calf, deems it Elohim, the God who led them out of Egypt, and puts an altar in front of it. Elohim can be translated as God or gods. The Hebrew Bible translates it God. Aaron, out of his fear that his society would crumble, casts an image of God that would make everyone happy. He went along with the crowd, so the system would remain in place. He went with what made the people feel in control, by creating an image that was familiar to them, brought them some sense of stability, security, control, affirmation. Filled that empty spot. The people needed God to be like these other gods they had seen in Egypt, unknown, to ease the discomfort of the unfamiliar, the new. How accurate was this image? Not at all. It was a false image, but a familiar one that affirmed them, appeased the fear. Aaron got his peace and avoided rebellion. The people got a false image, which made them feel empowered and in control of their situation. And it allowed them to further regress into the old licentious, binging Egyptian ways. Image matters. It mattered to God. God was upset. That image wasn't God. God was so angry that Moses had to talk him down because he was going to obliterate the whole human idea. What God gets so upset about is not, now listen to the passage, it's not that the people were worshiping different gods. No. God is upset in this passage because the people are worshiping a false image of God. A false image of God is more dangerous, Exodus is telling us, more harmful than worshiping an idol. Think about it. It made righteous and justified those European Puritans and other European colonists hundreds of years ago to obliterate indigenous peoples and take their land, because to those early settlers, the image of God looked and acted like European Puritans. If you weren't in the image of a white male Puritan, i.e. God, you weren't human. Image matters. I was teaching a children's lesson here in the Sacred Circle a few years back, and I showed a picture of Jesus like this one. And the child looked at it and asked, "Who's that?" And I said, "It's an image of Jesus." she immediately responded, "That's not Jesus." This is what Jesus looks like. The child's father was African American. What does Jesus look like to you? Having an image of God makes God real, doesn't it? Maybe Aaron knew what he was doing. I'll never forget a teenager I was working with years ago who shared that a time she quit believing in God. It was when she was about 10 years old, and she took her first plane ride. The plane climbed up into the sky above the clouds. She looked out her window, and God wasn't there. She had so intently believed in the image of God as this Santa Claus-like man up in the sky that when she finally got to the sky and saw he wasn't there, she concluded there was no God. When God doesn't fit the image we need to feel stable, to feel powerful, to feel loved, when God doesn't fit the image we want, we quit believing. Of that whole Exodus journey, what drove God to wanting to completely destroy the people and need Moses to talk them down? The people worshiping a false image of God. Because who is God? God answers, "I am who I am." What is the true image of God? Look in the mirror. God created humans in God's image. God created them. Humanity, a piece of art to represent God. This is the image of God. Are you showing it to others?